50,000 people checking your campaign out. They're just too scared to jump on board. That's okay. Like you said, because we're making a wave of some sort. I mean, you got my attention, and I'm so blessed to have you on, for an interview,
Oh, no, I'm enjoying this. Don't be overly gracious. I'm enjoying this.
Awesome. Fantastic.
I'm enjoying this. I hope that somebody listens to this whole thing, just because it would be nice to, well, in a way, it would be nice if we could do this in a format that would allow a little more interaction with the audience, but at the same time, these types of things have always cracked my head open too. I listen to odd little things and watch every obscure little movie and documentary I can get to, so I'm very similar to you in that way.
That's awesome. Well,
so I'm sure there are going to be some people out there listening to this going, this is fun. I hope, anyway.
I hope so, yeah. I mean, it's...
Just understand that free energy exists, okay? People listening. It exists because it's observable every hour of every minute of every day in the way the Earth rotates. And the way the sun interacts with the ionosphere and the magnetosphere of the planet and generates our magnetic field and rotates the Earth. That is free energy. That is the precept of which wireless free energy is based.
Did you know we have the same hertz as the Earth? Like the human body has like the same hertz as the Earth.
Well, this is a fun topic. I'm glad you brought this up. So biofeedback technology, one of my favorite topics.
Is that the Heart Math Institute?
I don't know about them, but what got me into this was sort of Tesla related, because I read a book called Angels Don't Play This Harp by Jean Manning. There's a woman in Canada who wrote this book, and it was about her sort of investigation of what the United States government was doing with this high-frequency active auroral research project in Alaska some years ago. And it was sort of the manipulation of biofeedback or bioengineering, or not engineering, but just the frequency of the human mind in its various formats. So,
which Jesse Ventura went to in one of his episodes. Just want to put that out there.
Oh, really? Okay. So he went up there, did he?
Yeah, he did. It was fun. He's
looked at the antennas.
Oh yeah, he ripped them apart. It was like, oh yeah, this is what you're doing. It was good. It's good stuff.
Well, it's interesting. It's all hearsay for me. I take everything with a grain of salt unless I experience it myself. And in my own personal life, there aren't boogeymen around every corner. But there is an obvious ability for us to manipulate our own biofeedback, our resonance, our alpha, beta, theta patterns, through meditation, for instance, or through anxiety. I mean, the spectrum of human resonance sort of spans between about 120 hertz down to what you're talking about, which is human resonance, where we get into harmony with that frequency that the Earth is always resonating at. And generally speaking, those hertz ranges are in that sort of very calm, open-minded, not compulsive thinking pattern type of state of mind. That I've experienced through meditation and other types of things like Tai Chi, and now today, just after 20 years of meditation, I can just turn it on if I want. I can just stop thinking and get right into my breath, and immediately I start feeling that. But I had to work my way into that. It took decades and many, many frustrating hours of meditating and not being able to turn my mind off. But for sure, yes, the body and the mind do come into absolute synchronicity with the Earth. One could extrapolate concepts from that, saying we get into Earth consciousness.
Nice. I like that.
We could say that. That would be a way of looking at it, one could say. And certainly contact with the Earth helps. So if you take your shoes off and you run around when you're a kid, you weren't thinking that much. You were just playing. And you were probably playing at a state of mind that was in pretty close harmony with Earth resonance. And go away from that consciousness, you get separated from that feeling of delight and joy and all the rest of it. And why is that? Because your biofeedback, your alpha, beta, theta patterns are in disharmony with peace. Peace is like, you've got different patterns, right? You get your alpha, beta, theta patterns. Well, what if those three patterns are in discord with each other? Well, then you have heightened states of anxiety, fear, lust, desire, all those things that are in absolute discord with peace, which is acceptance of this moment as it is, without comment.
True.
And that is really what the shamans and the swamis and the Buddhas, Jesuses, and everybody else was teaching humanity. And we still, as a mass, have not figured that out.
And Tesla gave us a way of being able to prove it through energy and physics and all of that great stuff.
Right.
So we can measure it and say, see, it is true, but no one gets that either.
Well, people do get it. There are people who are studying biofeedback extensively. There's an organization, maybe it is the HeartMap one. I know of another one that's in Oregon where they're actually recording biofeedback from, a whole spectrum of human society, obviously. So people in jail, people and children, every faction of society is being sort of tested in this area. And they're just having conversations, talking, just allowing them to be, and then recording their biofeedback. And of course, they're coming to the point where they realize that all these people who meditate on a regular basis are much happier, or their minds they're scientifically proving the 5,000-year history of meditation, which is if you meditate, you feel better, right? Yeah. So it's like science is just so funny. It's like, it is. Yes, we want to look at it, we want to see how it works, but in our own lives, we're not going to employ it.
See, I've been my whole thing has been trying to take science and to bring it into like a more fun, nature. So like, experimenting with intuition. Experimenting with synchronicity. I mean, to me, it just brings life into your day. You're like, wait a minute, I can actually associate or like kind of communicate with the universe. You know what I mean? And people are like, oh, that's crazy. No, it's actually provable. And I don't know what it means, but it's look where I'm talking to you. So I mean, it's working to some degree.
Well, we're having fun with each other. How much we're helping the rest of the world, we can't say. Maybe none. But the fact that I enjoyed your involvement in our campaign. I mean, this is my point. Is like I kickstart this thing. I spent a lot of money. I banked my life on it. Mm-hmm. I didn't. I'm not in destitution or anything. I have opportunities otherwise. But let's just say it was an end-all be-all. Mm-hmm. Let's say I put myself out there because it did cost us $17,000 to mount this campaign, and actually a little more than that. So that's more than a lot of people have to spend on something like this. So I put myself out there. I put my neck out, and I was so disappointed, by how people responded to it. And I have this feeling it's because they think I'm just sitting on a big pile of money. I should just do it myself anyway.
More likely.
And because I've got Fred involved, they think that we're rich.
Well, I wanted to ask you that in general. Like, how did you get these people? I mean, you have a person from Disney, Marvel, Vampire Diaries, which I have to just say, the Colin Ferguson connection. Eureka from... No, seriously. He was on Eureka, and then he was on Haven, which is still on Sci-Fi Channel. Both were on Sci-Fi. And now he's on Vampire Diaries, which you have someone who did the Vampire Diaries graphic novel. I just think it's fascinating. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just interesting.
Well, it is interesting because, I struggled for many, many, many years. I was in that same hole that a lot of people are in.
I'm still there, so.
You know what I mean? I'm not even that far out of it, let's just say. Yeah. I mean, my start got like this. I was living in Vancouver. I was doing fairly well. This is like 2007. I was working for Stash DVD magazine, which is kind of a cool magazine. They deliver online now, and you can go to stashmedia.tv, and essentially what they do is they sort of present all the best animation, motion graphics, visual effects that are being produced in the industry worldwide every month. Mm-hmm. And so I was working with them. It was a cool job and expanding, and I got into producing and directing their online commercials, and that was kind of a breakthrough for me. And then I just had a spat with a couple of clients, and these people in these industries are pretty arrogant and egotistical, and so they basically went to the publishers and told them a bunch of stuff that didn't happen, and then exaggerated on other things, got me fired. So I was pretty disappointed. So I decided, well, I'm going to move to the Ukraine.
Wow.
Well, there was a girl that I was sort of interested in, and I was not too interested in the sort of way of how people interact here, relationship-wise. So I wanted to explore that. Plus, I wanted to write. I have this fascination, ongoing fascination, not just with Tesla, not just with the Mayans, but with Russian history, and as well. So I wanted to go over there, but I didn't want to go into Russia, and I thought the next best thing would be the Ukraine. So I went and I landed in Kiev, and I ended up teaching Mayan history there at the university. So I had kind of a fortuitous experience.
Oh, that's awesome.
but then my relationship there sort of imploded in one evening, really. Went to work, was teaching these guys. I was having the best class of my time there. Everybody was responding well. I was getting the best feedback. I was really enjoying it. Went home. They all walked me home, which is something if you haven't had that experience, your university students walking you home in a foreign country like Ukraine, it's quite a charming experience. So I ended up getting back home. My girlfriend worked for NATO. She was attaché to the NATO advisor in Ukraine, and or the lead diplomat there, I guess. I didn't meet him. Anything about her job was pretty much hush-hush, so she never told me details. I just knew that she worked for NATO and went to all the conferences, so she was all over Europe. So anyway, we were staying in this building, and she had set it up, and it was nice digs, and it was former KGB place where people who were high-level KGB people live. So it was kind of an interesting place to be. And I got home, and she thought I was cheating on her somehow. She had been in Poland recently, and I had gone out with my Canadian friends to this place that she had wanted to take me to called the Buddha Bar. Anyway, I told her I went there. Mm-hmm. But she got really offended that I went without her, and then they just sort of like built and built. And she had been in a previous marriage where the guy cheated on her, like ridiculous. And they're different over there. They stay in marriages, right? Mm-hmm. And they try and make their marriage work. And anyway, she just had a lot of build-up of emotions, so she just immediately assumed I was cheating on her and wouldn't get over it, and was kicking me out and making threats. And then I realized in that moment, by the threats that she was saying, that she wasn't working necessarily for the NATO. She was actually working for Moscow Secret Service as a mole, a deep mole, because she had been to diplomatic school in Washington, D.C. and all the rest of it. I got scared. So I don't know for sure if my fears were founded or not, but just some of the things that she was saying in that moment. 4 hours later, I was on a plane to Paris. And I didn't even have time to say goodbye to the students. I didn't even have time to properly leave the school. I didn't have time to say goodbye to my friends there. I was there for 9 months. I didn't have any time to do anything about that. I was on a plane in Paris 4 hours later. Or not 4 hours later. I was on the plane 4 hours later, and then 8 hours later or whatever, or 6 hours later, I was in Paris.
Wow.
So coming back from that, I was a little bit devastated, a little bit lost. I landed in Vancouver like literally 18 hours after that moment in that apartment in Kiev. I was back in Vancouver, Canada, 18 hours or 19 hours later. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing there. And I had nothing set up for myself there. And no money, really, because I was slowly going to debt living in Kiev because there's really no way to make money, even at the university teaching level. You don't make anything. You make $300 a month. So I was literally going in debt living there. So I got back and I was in trouble, really, financially. And I moved back to Calgary because this is where I was born. My parents are here. I thought, okay, I can get a job here. So I did. I got a job delivering phone books, literally. And I made pretty good money at that because we were getting a pretty good deal. We were getting like 25, 30 cents a book. So you can deliver a lot of books in a day. I found out. You can deliver 3,000-4,000 books in a day.
Wow.
So I did that for a couple of years and ended up foreigners because they're not wrapped up in the commercialism and materialism and sense of entitlement that all North Americans, not just women, but men and women, are wrapped up in. And so my relationships are generally speaking with people from foreign countries, just for that reason. And their values are more like, okay, we're going to make this work, as opposed to, well, it's not working for me, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. So that's just a personal note. So I had this relationship. I was doing this thing, and the contract ended, and I had nothing to do. I ended up falling back into tree planting. I tried to get a job around here. Apparently, I'm not employable by the mainstream